Welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast, your home for weekly information and inspiration to help you get the graduate job of your dreams.
Hello and welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast with your host, James Curran. The Graduate Job Podcast is your weekly home for all things related to helping you on your journey to finding that amazing job. Each week I bring together the best minds in the industry, speaking to leading authors, entrepreneurs, coaches and bloggers who bring decades of experience into a bite-sized weekly 30-minute show. Put simply, this is a show I wish I had a decade ago when I graduated. And a big warm welcome to you for the 61st episode of the Graduate Job Podcast. We have a very special guest today, all the way from North London. It's me. Yes, I will be guiding you through a topic which many listeners hope they won't ever face. How to get a graduate job with a 2-2 or third-class degree. Now, should you find yourself in this position, I'll take you through 10 tips to help you get a graduate job. I'll take you through why this might not be as much of a handicap to getting a graduate job as you think, how companies are still desperate for your talent, why startups and smaller companies could be a valuable avenue to explore, and how to get valuable work experience along the way, plus much, much more. Now, whether you're on for a first or a fail, this is an episode you won't want to miss. As always, all links to everything I discussed today can be found in the show notes at graduatejobpodcast.com/22. That's the numbers 22. Before we start though, let's have a quick message from today's sponsor, who are careergym.com. Now, CareerGym is the #1 place for you to undertake all of your psychometric tests which you'll face when you apply for a graduate job. You can practice verbal, numerical and abstract reasoning tests, all produced by experts, and exactly the same as those ones you see in the real tests. You can just practice them there, or you can do them in exam mode under time pressure, and they all come with a detailed explanation and solution so you can track your progress and see how you compare against your peers. I've been recommending this site for years to the clients I coach, and it comes very highly recommended. And what's even better is that if you use the code GJP, you'll get 20% off all of their tests. Now, you can't say fairer than that. Everybody loves a bargain. So head on over to www.careergym.com. That's careergym.com. And use the code GJP to get 20% off and start practicing today. Now on with the show. So, listeners, especially listeners overseas, might be wondering, what is this man chatting about? What exactly is a 2-2, third, first, 2-1? What does it all mean? So let's have a brief explanation of the degree classifications over here in the UK, so some of this makes some sense. So at the end of your 3 or 4 years, you get a degree, hopefully, and you are awarded what is known as an honours degree classification for all of your hard work. If you score over 70%, you get awarded first class honours, known as a first. And last year, a record 24% of students got a first. Congratulations. Now, a grade of 60 to 69% is an upper second class honours, which is known as a 2-1. And last year, 49% of people got a 2-1, which was another record. So nearly 75% of people then get either a first or a 2-1. Now, a grade of 50 to 59% is called a lower second class honours, a 2-2 degree, known colloquially as a Desmond, after Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Tutu, get it? There you go. And then 40 to 49% is a third class honours, and under 40% is a fail. So for listeners in the US, a rough rule of thumb comparison with your grade point average GPA would be a 3.7 to 4 GPA would be about first. 3.3 to 3.69 is probably a 2-1. GPA of 2.7 to 3.29 is probably a 2-2. And then below a 2.7 GPA is probably a third. Now, there's no direct comparison, but that's probably where it would be as a quick finger in the air. Now, why does this matter? So it matters because in recent years, many graduate schemes have set a 2-1 degree as a barrier to entry to being able to apply. So if you don't have a 2-1 or above, then you can't apply. And if you get a 2-2, then sometimes you find yourself barred from applying, and consequently the concern is, how am I going to get a decent job? Well, relax, my dear listeners, because today we're going to explore the top 10 tips to getting a graduate job with a 2-2 or a third-class degree. So, number 1 of my top 10 tips is don't worry. Now, after studying hard and many hours in the library and a lot of expense to get your degree, this might not be what you want to hear, so I'll say it quietly, but don't worry. Your degree classification in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter. Now, yes, it matters initially when you're looking for a job, but a couple of years down the line, no one cares about what degree you did, where you went, or what you got. It's simply all about what can you do. Now, you might be thinking that a 2-2 or third has you destined to a life of unemployment, low-paid work and flipping burgers, but don't worry. Studies have shown that at high level there is no difference. The Higher Education Statistics Agency says that after 6 months, the percentage of people in full employment is exactly the same, whether you get a first, a 2-1 or a 2-2. Now, that might mask the level and type of job, but in terms of actually having a job, there's no difference at all. And as I said, from my personal experience at work, no one cares what uni you went to, what degree you did, what grades you got for A-level. It's all about, can you do the job? So let's move on to point 2. And point 2 is, you are not your degree. So we started off with the good news there, but I'm not going to lie to you. To get where you want to go career-wise, you're going to have to work harder if you've got a 2-2 or a third than you are if you've got a 2-1. You're going to have to prove yourself. You're going to have to put the effort in and impress, because all things being equal, if you've got 2 identical candidates, one's got 2-1, one's got 2-2, then they'll pick someone with a 2-1. But that is where the importance of mindset comes in. Now, it's so important. I have a whole set of YouTube videos on the topic. Head over to graduatejobpodcast.com/22. That's the numbers 22, where I've linked to these videos and you can find a full transcript of the episode today. Now, why is mindset important? Let's go to a quote from Rory Sutherland, Vice Chairman of the advertising giant, the Ogilvy Group. He said, "I have asked around and nobody has any evidence to suggest for any given university recruits with first-class degrees turn into better employees than those with thirds. If anything, the correlation operates in reverse." So there you go. For degree qualifications, there is no correlation between actual job performance and the degree that you get. Now let's break this down a little bit. If you think about what you need to be good at getting a degree, it's essay writing, memorizing information, regurgitating information in a timed exam in May and June where you're frantically writing down as much as you can. Now, these are great skills, but ones which don't necessarily reflect what companies are looking for today. So just because you didn't get a 2-1 doesn't mean that you don't have the skills which companies are crying out for. So what you can't do if you get a 2-2 or third is to start to mope, to doubt yourself or think that you're not good enough or think about your friends and what they got. Don't let an arbitrary degree classification define who you are and what you want to do with your life. Remember, as I said, you are not your degree. Don't let your grades keep you down. Be positive, confident, which takes us on to point 3, which is what you really need to do is focus your efforts. You need to be realistic, and despite how much you think it's unfair, many companies want people with 2-1s. Now, lots do, but also lots don't, and we'll come to that later on. But sadly, many do. I've spoken to many heads of graduate recruiting about their graduate schemes, lots of the big companies. Check out my interviews with EY, Teach First, Allen Overy, etc., etc. Again, links all in the show notes. And the reason when I've asked them, why do you have an arbitrary degree classification, is that they said it's simply just due to the numbers. They get so many applications as it is that they just need to draw the line somewhere. And demanding a 2-1 is just a really easy and quick and cheap way to do it. Do they miss out on good candidates as a result? Yeah. But for the cost and time reasons, they acknowledge that this is a price worth paying. And as such, companies will put their degree classifications front and centre of their graduate application websites. And what you need to do, though, is make sure that you read these. So say, for example, if Goldman Sachs say they want candidates with a 2-1, don't even bother applying if you haven't got a 2-1, because they will filter you out straight away without even reading it. It'll just go straight in the bin. So what you need to do is focus your efforts and pick your battles. Now, if you've got your heart set on Goldman Sachs, then what you need to do is think laterally. Think about what steps are there between you and the job that you want. Now, this might be starting at a competitor, getting the experience and then moving across laterally to Goldman's. Or it might be, taking a lower level entry position with them, showing them what you can do and impressing them and working your way up. What you need to do is focus and do that thinking early. But save yourself the disappointment of applying for jobs where you're going to be ruled out straight away, because it'll just be extremely depressing. Now, the exception to this is if you do have some real mitigating circumstances for why you might not have got a 2-1, be it illness, family, whatever. Now, where this is the case, don't just fire an off application with a little note, because to be honest, they're not going to read it and you're probably just going to get rejected anyway. Make sure you get in touch with the recruitment team and make sure that you speak to them first. Be honest with them about what happened and make sure you've got a good, plausible excuse, as opposed to the weather was really nice or the dog ate the homework, all that sort of stuff. So, to reiterate, the key point here is focus. Focus on the companies that are looking for graduates with 2 2s, which leads us nicely onto point 4, which is lots of companies want candidates who have a 2 2. Yes, you heard that right. Despite what you might have heard, lots of companies accept applications from people with 2 2s. Now, not all of them do, but a lot of them do. And it's been an interesting trend over recent years in that many companies have been relaxing their degree requirements. Take EY, Ernst & Young, this huge accounting and consulting company. Now, their managing partner for talent, Maggie Stillwell, said, "Our own internal research of over 400 graduates found that screening students based on academic performance alone was too blunt an approach to recruitment. It found no evidence to conclude that previous success in higher education correlated with future success in subsequent professional qualifications undertaken." As I said earlier, how well you do at university doesn't correlate with how well you do at work. So, who are these companies? Well, I won't list them all here because there's loads of them, but I've linked in the show notes to them at graduatejobpodcast.com/22. But they include, drumroll please, Grant Thornton, Deloitte, Google, Apple, the Civil Service Fast Stream, MI5, TCHQ, Jaguar Land Rover, Unilever, and Procter & Gamble, just to pick a few names out of the air. So there's plenty to keep you going, no matter what field you're interested in. So there you go, lots of good news there. But following on from this with point 5 is, don't forget smaller companies or startups. Now, many people, when they are at university and applying for jobs, or when they've finished university and applying for graduate jobs, have this definite set idea of who and where they want to work after university. Now, I was very similar. I was in that position. I was quite company agnostic, but my criteria was, 1, it needed to be a big company. It needed to have a well-defined graduate scheme of a couple of years. And on that graduate scheme, I wanted to rotate between different departments, so I got a taste of different areas of work and see what parts I enjoyed and what I did, because at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I thought that would be a graduate scheme that would help me to realise what I wanted to do. But having that set criteria meant that as a result, I closed myself off to a full range of opportunities available with smaller companies or with startup companies. And graduates often get lured into the attraction of applying to the big milk round companies, mainly because they're the ones who turn up at university and they're the ones that sell themselves to you with their big advertising budgets. However, one interesting stat for you, courtesy of episode 26 with Simon Reichwald. Again, find the links in the show notes. Now, Simon said how the top 500 graduate employers, so the top 500 companies who take on graduates, take only 10% of the total graduate market every year. Just 10%. So 90% of you are listening are going to be working for smaller companies or startups. Now that is a huge figure, and it just shows you how much of a huge market out there is to be applying to. Now take, for example, startups. So working for a startup is going to be a very different proposition than working for a huge graduate employer. The career and progression paths might not be as defined. but you could find yourself with a lot more responsibility at a smaller company than you would at a big employer. Your role will likely have more variety. You could expect to be getting involved in different things. You could be working directly for the founders and the CEOs. Your ideas could be listened to a lot more, and you could have more scope for picking things up and running with them. Now, for some people who'll be listening, they'll think, oh yeah, that sounds really good. And others could be thinking, ugh, that is not what I want. And that's fine. The key thing here is to think specifically about what is going to work for you and go from there. But just make sure you don't overlook this huge market of possible and exciting jobs. Now, working for some hot tech startup in Shoreditch with beanbags everywhere and slides and, pool tables and that sort of jazz might be very exciting. And it could be a lot more exciting than doing the photocopying on a big graduate scheme where you just can be sat playing with Excel. But have a think about it. Check out my interviews with Alistair Patterson, who's the CEO of hot UK tech startup Digital Shadows, in episode 9 for information on what they look for from candidates. And also check out episode 43 with Rob Blythe from Instant Impact, who are a recruitment company who specialise in placing grads at smaller companies and startups. Again, check out the show notes at graduatejobpodcast.com/22 for all of the links. Alternatively, instead of working straight away, another option is do further study, which can be a very attractive possibility, especially if you don't know what else to do or you don't want to get a job yet, which is fair enough. So where I would recommend further study is where there's a postgraduate course which has a strong vocational aspect. So you're going to set yourself up nicely for a graduate job at the other end of it, or if it's a required element of your chosen career path. In those situations, build your boots. However, if not, I would personally think long and hard about it. For me, it's several drawbacks, one of which is definitely the cost. They ain't cheap, so what you're looking at, maybe 12, 15k plus living expenses depending on where you want to do it. If you want to do it in London or other big cities, it's not going to be cheap. And when I was sitting on the other side of the recruiting fence, you know what I preferred more than further study? Experience. Now, someone who had worked for a year was a lot more attractive for me than someone who had spent another year studying a random topic that probably wasn't going to be relevant to the specific job. But getting experience can be difficult, so there is another way in my eyes. So imagine if you took that same money you were going to invest in yourself on a master's, so say 15k, and instead of investing it on the master's, you invested it in yourself in a different way. Now think about it, 15 grand could buy you a lot of experience. And more importantly, if you've got that money in your hand, you can have the power to decide where you want to go and get that experience. For example, say you want to get into accounting, which what would be good for you is to go and get some experience. So why not broaden your horizons? And instead of getting experience at the local firm, go and volunteer your time working with a charity of your choice somewhere around the world, where you could help bring your expertise to helping them do their books or helping them do their accounts. On the one hand, you get to help a good cause, you'll get international experience, you'll give your CV a huge boost, and you'll have the fun of living in a new country. Pick a country with lower cost of living than the UK, and you can do this for much less than you think. You can follow your passion into whatever area you want, helping homeless kids in Calcutta, or a charity helping sea turtles in the Maldives, or wherever you want to go. Imagine how many great competency questions you could answer based on 3 to 6 months doing that. Now, it might be daunting and take some effort to organise, but that's why many people don't do it. So, slight movement off topic, but there you go. Think hard about further study. You don't want to spend 15 grand in a year of your life to find yourself in exactly the same position when it comes to getting a graduate job. So moving on to point 7. And point 7 builds on the previous point and is about the power of volunteering. Now, work experience, as I mentioned, is crucial, and employers want a safe bet. They want to know that by hiring you, that you'll be a sure thing, that you'll get on at work and simply you're going to earn them money. Now, by showing them that you've done the work or done something similar before, you can tick that box, which is why work experience is so important. Now, where to go to get work experience? Charities, as I mentioned earlier, are a great place to start. Namely because 1, they're always looking for people. 2, charities tend to be everywhere. No matter where you are listening to this, there'll be a local charity nearby. And thirdly, they're often more flexible in terms of how you can volunteer your time than a company might be. And finally, it always looks good in the CV. I do a lot of work for charity. Always goes down well. Now, whatever field you want to get into, you can find a way to help with those skills. So say, for example, plucking a career out of the air, graphic design. Say you want to get into graphic design. You could offer to design the local charities' posters that they might have, or their website, or their leaflets that they send out to people, or their general communications. Say, for example, you want to get into social work. Go and help with your local refugee societies or homeless shelters. E-commerce. Say, then you could go and help a local charity putting their high-end goods online, helping them develop a website for how they might be able to sell them. Now, the possibilities are endless. It just takes some thought. So it goes back to the earlier point about focusing down on what it is that you really want to do, and then thinking laterally about how you can build up the experience so you can look attractive when you go and apply for jobs. The crucial aspect, though, is to make sure that you ask in the right way. And this matters whether you're approaching a charity or a company or asking for work experience. Now, well worth a listen in this respect is my episode with Rob Bentz in episode 36. Rob's advice is when you approach people about work experience, remember that whoever you are going to is probably going to be very busy. And just the offer to them of, can I come and work with your office for free, please, is not actually that attractive to them, because they'll get it and then they'll think, this is going to be effort, it's going to be hassle, I've got to find you some work to do, you're going to be asking me what I'm going to do today, I've got to train you up, you're not going to be there on time, All those things are going to be going through their minds when they get that offer. So a better approach is instead to tell them the benefits of what you're going to do for them. If you go to them and said, I want to come in and this is exactly what I want to do for you, this is how it will benefit you, and this is a difference that it's going to make to your business. If you do that, and if you also think, what are the objections that they're going to have to you coming in, and then try to mitigate them in your approach. So talk about the benefits of what you're going to do for them, but also talk about how you're a self-starter, how you work under your own initiative, how you're not going to need managing or looking after, how you're punctual, all those sort of things. It then just makes it easy for them to say yes. And the beauty of work experience is that you never know where it's going to lead. Which takes us on nicely to point 8, which is networking. Now, people can find this a scary term, but it doesn't have to be in practice. Again, we've covered this on the show, so I recommend you check out episodes 3 with Richard Morn and also 23 with Stephen Thomas. Head to the show notes at, you should know this by now, graduatejobpodcast.com/22, where you'll be able to find links to both those episodes. Now, networking is important and it's a big cliche, but most jobs are never advertised. And I can remember thinking or hearing about that phrase and thinking, well, that doesn't make sense because I was applying for graduate jobs and graduate jobs are advertised, or for the big milk round type companies anyway. But by that stage, I wasn't aware that those jobs only represented 10% of all the jobs that are out there. So just think about those other 90%, and they're the sort of positions that we're talking about. These are the ones where they need people and they don't advertise them, but those jobs are there if the right candidate comes across them. So by doing work experience and volunteering, you are networking really, whether you think about it or not. Now, you can keep it reactive and keep it to just the people you happen to meet, or you can get out there and make new contacts proactively. How do you do this? Well, the crucial first step is what we mentioned back in point 3. Focus. Focus on the industries and companies you're interested in. Then I'd recommend getting on Twitter for a start. Get a nice professional looking profile and start following and interacting with these companies and the people in this industry. You'll be able to gain a huge amount of knowledge from the sort of tweets that they're putting out about their documents, or where they're going to be talking about their products or conferences and things they're going to. Start retweeting their tweets, start replying to them, start sending them or people things that you think might be interesting from the industry. Now, this is all networking. I mean, it's all online, but it's still networking. But when you meet them in real life, you'll have something that you can discuss with them from the bat. See what exhibitions, job fairs, talks, expos, etc. that they're going to be appearing at. Then go along and introduce yourself. And I think I'll do a separate episode on this in more detail. But it's simply about getting yourself out there and doing what you can to get yourself in front of people who might be able to help you find a job. It's never about going up and asking them directly for a job or can I have a job. But as I said in episode 3, Richard Mann has a great question you should always keep in mind. Who do you know who? Who do you know who might be looking for an intern? Who do you know who might need help with their marketing? Who do you know who is looking for a young, dynamic graduate? Keep asking this phrase and you will be a networking legend before you know it. So, check out those episodes and get networking. So, moving on to the penultimate point. You know, you don't need to get a job. Why not instead take a leap of faith and start your own business? Instead of putting a load of effort into getting a job, why not put that same effort into starting your own business? It's never been easier or cheaper to do it. For just £50, you can get yourself a domain, a website, some business cards, and you're off to the races. With a website, you can be peeling for business around the world. And age is nothing but a number. Don't let that hold you back. Don't think, oh, I'm 21, 22, etc. I can't do this. If you've got a good idea, go for it. Now, this won't be for everyone, but for some of you've got that entrepreneurial fire burning deep inside, then why bother getting a graduate job and spend the next 10 years in regret, feeling trapped? Start your own business now. Thing is, though, after university, it's probably the best time to start a business because you're probably unencumbered by those boring things that are going to bog you down later in life. Mortgages, kids, wives, etc., etc. You're also used to maybe scrimping as a student, so bootstrapping it shouldn't be too hard if you're coming from a life of hardship and eating beans and rice. And you also have a great network of people around you from university who can help and who are probably cheap. And from a job point of view, if you do spend a year working in a business and it doesn't work out, then just get a job. You've not lost anything. Instead, just imagine how many amazing examples you'll have for all of those long competency questions. You're going to learn so much about yourself. You're going to push yourself so much, and you will make yourself look super employable. So it's worth giving it a go. For more tips on making the push to self-employment, check out my episode with Brad Burton, and also my upcoming interview with author MJ DeMarco. As usual, all links in the show notes. So there you go, 9 tips so far to help you get a graduate job with a 2-2. As a recap: 1. Don't worry. 2. Remember, you are not your degree. 3. Focus down on the companies that you really, really want to work for. 4. Companies are crying out for people with a 2-2. Don't forget that. 5. Also, don't forget or neglect the smaller companies and startups which are desperate for skilled people like yourselves. 6. Further study. 7. Volunteer to get that ace work experience. 8. Network, and build those brilliant contacts who are going to help you get a job. 9. Start your own business. And the final one is 10. Be patient. If you have a dream of where you want to be prepared to play the long game. Remember, it's not where you start that matters, it's where you finish. As I said, 2 years down the line, nobody is going to care what degree you did or what degree you got. It's all about what you can do. Now, if you get a 2-2 or a 3rd, it might take you slightly longer to reach your destination. but never give up. It's never over if you never give up. Keep focused on where you want to get to, and remember, keep going one step at a time. As my former guest Craig Williams from the Royal Marines said, every journey is a challenge, and every challenge is made up of a series of small steps. So there you go. My top 10 tips to help you get a graduate job with a 2-2 or third class degree. Drop me a note and let me know if you enjoyed the episode of me chatting away to myself today. If you've enjoyed it, you can thank me by taking my super quick survey over at graduatejobpodcast.com/survey. It helps me to create the shows you want to hear, and this episode was actually a request from Deepak, who filled in the survey, so many thanks.